The galaxy was wide, endless, and cruel. In one forgotten corner of the stars, a small alien colony tried to survive. They were a peaceful race, farmers and builders, not warriors. Their world had green fields, silver rivers, and towers of glass that shone under twin suns. For generations, they had lived quietly. But peace never lasts forever. The Empire came. It was a vast empire of warships, ruled by strength and fear. For them, small colonies were nothing but stepping stones, places to burn, places to enslave. The alien colony stood no chance. The Empire's fleet arrived like a storm, dark metal ships filling the skies, blotting out the stars. The colony's defenses were weak. Their fighters were few, their weapons old. Within hours, their shields cracked. The Empire's soldiers marched across their cities, burning homes, tearing down statues, and hunting those who resisted. The people screamed, but no one came. Among the chaos was a young alien technician named Lyra. She was not a soldier. Her hands had always worked on machines, not weapons. She had no power, no rank, no influence. Yet, as she watched her world falling, something inside her refused to give up. Hidden in the ruins of an old communications tower, Lyra discovered something almost forgotten. It was an ancient relay beacon, a device built long ago when her people still dreamed of exploring the stars. The beacon was broken, dusty, left behind when the colony gave up hope of contact with other civilizations. But she knew it still had a small chance. Her people had always believed no one would ever come if they called. The Empire was too strong, and the galaxy too cruel. But Lyra thought differently. Even a weak voice, sent into the dark, might reach someone. Her fingers shook as she connected the power cells. Sparks danced, and the old machine hummed. The beacon came alive, its core glowing faintly. She pressed the transmitter and spoke, her voice trembling but clear. This is Colony A-17. We are under attack. Please, if anyone hears this, help us. We don't have much time. Please. The words echoed into the endless void of space. When the signal left the tower, the Empire's forces were already closing in. Lyra hid in the shadows, waiting. Days passed. The beacon repeated her message again and again, but there was no answer. The colony's leaders tried to keep control, but their defenses crumbled. More cities burned. Families were dragged away. At night, the survivors looked to the sky, wondering if their message had reached anyone, or if the stars were just empty. Lyra began to lose hope. She watched friends vanish, her home reduced to ashes. Her own family was gone. Sometimes she sat by the beacon and whispered the message again, even though she knew no one was listening. Then, one night, when the last defensive outpost fell and the Empire's flag rose over the colony, the beacon flickered. The hum changed. Lights she had never seen before glowed bright. A signal came back. Her eyes widened. For the first time in weeks, she felt her heart race with something other than fear. A reply. It was short. Just 3 words. But those words burned themselves into her mind. We are coming. She read it again and again, as if afraid the message would vanish. We are coming. The survivors around her whispered in confusion. Who had answered? None of them recognized the strange symbol attached to the signal, a crest of a blue sphere with a single star above it. The machine identified the sender with a single name, Humanity. But who were the humans? The galaxy was vast. There were countless species, countless empires, but no one had ever spoken of humans. Were they strong? Were they weak? Were they even real? No one knew. Some said it was a trick by the Empire, a cruel joke to crush the last hope of the colony. Others believed it was another power, waiting to enslave them once the Empire was gone. But for Lyra, it did not matter. The message was real. Someone had heard. Someone had answered. She stood under the broken sky, watching the Empire's warships circle above. The colony was on the edge of death. Yet, deep inside, a spark of hope was reborn. Somewhere in the endless night, strangers had chosen to come. The people gathered in secret, listening to the beacon as it repeated the reply. Those 3 words spread through the ruined streets like fire. Children whispered them. The old repeated them. Even those who no longer believed in miracles felt a shiver in their hearts. We are coming. For the Empire, the colony was already theirs. For the survivors, the end seemed near. But beyond the stars, something was moving. Unknown ships were on their way. Unknown warriors were preparing. The galaxy would soon learn what it meant when humanity answered a call for help. And for the colony, trapped in the dark, the signal was no longer just a plea. It was the beginning of something greater. The night was still, but every survivor felt it. Change was coming. For many days after the message arrived, the colony waited. The survivors clung to hope, but fear still pressed down on their hearts. The Empire's ships ruled the skies, their soldiers ruled the ground, and no rescue was in sight. The people asked the same question again and again: who are the humans? No one knew. No one had ever seen them. No one had even heard their name whispered in the markets of the stars. In a galaxy filled with great powers, surely one forgotten species could not stand against the Empire. Yet, the message remained: we are coming. The Empire laughed when they intercepted the signal. Their commanders mocked the colony. You believe strangers will save you? You are fools. No one dares to face us. Not for you. Not for anyone. But Lyra held onto the words. She stayed by the beacon every night, waiting, watching. And then, one night, the stars changed. The Empire had placed their ships above the planet, a wall of black iron. Suddenly, a ripple tore across the void. Space twisted. The stars bent like ripples on water. And from that wound in reality, shapes began to emerge. The first human ships arrived. They were not elegant, not beautiful. They were not polished with gold or carved with symbols like the Empire's vessels. They were steel, pure steel, dark gray hulls covered in scars, engines burning with fierce blue light. Each one looked like a predator, built only for war. The survivors gasped. These were not traders. These were not diplomats. These were warships, and they carried the banner of a people unknown. The Empire reacted at once. Their ships turned, weapons charged, warnings screamed through the comms. This is Imperial space. Leave, or be destroyed. The human fleet sent only one answer. Their signal spread across every channel, firm and unshaken. Stay calm. You are under our protection now. The survivors froze. The words were simple, but the meaning was heavy. Protection. No one in the galaxy offered protection without a price. And yet, here were humans, claiming the colony as their own to guard. The Empire laughed again. A forgotten race dares to challenge us? Very well. You will learn what it means to stand against power. The order was given. The Empire's fleet opened fire. And then, the battle began. The skies above the colony lit up with fire. Beams of red and blue tore across the void. Explosions flashed brighter than the suns. The ground trembled as debris rained from the heavens. At first, the aliens feared the humans would fall. The Empire had more ships, more weapons, more experience. But the humans did not fight like anyone else. They moved in tight formation, every ship covering another. When one was hit, the others closed in to shield it. Their warships struck not with elegance but with brutal precision, each volley cutting through armor, each missile tearing apart enemy hulls. The survivors could hardly believe what they saw. The invincible Empire, those who had crushed their world, was losing. Their mighty cruisers exploded, their soldiers shouted in panic, their commanders demanded retreat. Lyra watched from the ruins of the tower, her eyes wide, her heart racing. She had seen her people beaten, broken, and enslaved. But now she saw something else, humanity's way of war. It was not pretty. It was not graceful. It was terrifying. The Empire called the humans savages. Perhaps they were right. The humans fought with fury, with fire, with sacrifice. They took hits without hesitation. They struck back harder. And when enemy ships tried to flee, the humans hunted them down, one by one. For the first time, the survivors cheered. They raised their voices into the night as human ships tore the enemy apart. Hope returned, and it was fierce. When the battle ended, silence filled the skies. The Empire's fleet was broken. The survivors expected the humans to land at once, to demand payment, to claim the planet for themselves. That was the way of the galaxy. No one gave without taking. But the human fleet sent only one message. A voice, calm but firm, echoed through every comm. You are safe now. The enemy has been driven away. Do not fear. We will stay until the threat is gone. The survivors stared at each other in disbelief. Safe. No demands. No chains. Who were these humans, who fought not for conquest but for strangers? That night, as fires still burned on the surface, the people gathered and whispered. Some believed the humans were angels. Others believed they were demons. But Lyra knew one thing, the message had been true. They had come. And the Empire, once so mighty, had tasted fear. But this was only the beginning. For the humans had not arrived with just a fleet. They had arrived with a purpose. And the galaxy was about to change forever. The first battle was won, but the war was not over. The Empire was too vast, too proud, to allow such humiliation to stand. Within days, their reinforcements arrived, dozens of ships, then hundreds, pouring into the system like a flood of steel. The survivors of the colony trembled. They had seen hope when the human fleet destroyed the first wave, but now? Now the sky burned with enemy firepower greater than before. The Empire wanted revenge, and they wanted it quickly. The humans did not run. Their ships shifted into new formation, a wall of steel between the colony and the Empire. They were fewer in number, their vessels smaller and less polished, but they stood firm. Their message spread across every channel, reaching not only the colony but the Empire itself. We do not retreat. We hold the line. The survivors could not understand it. Why would the humans risk everything for strangers? Why not leave and save themselves? But the humans fought differently from every other species in the galaxy. The Empire's strategy was domination, fast strikes, overwhelming force, crushing the will of the enemy. Against most, it worked. But the humans did not break. Each time an Imperial cruiser struck, the humans countered with coordinated precision. Each time they lost a ship, the rest of the fleet tightened formation, covering the gap like a shield. It was war unlike anything the survivors had ever seen. Human soldiers boarded enemy ships in brutal raids. They did not fight for glory or honor. They fought for survival. They used everything, old tricks, new tactics, even sacrificing their own vessels to protect the colony. Where the Empire hesitated, humans pressed forward. Where the Empire relied on fear, humans relied on unity. From the ground, the survivors watched the sky. Explosions painted the heavens, debris fell like burning rain. Lyra stood among them, her hands clenched, her heart racing. She saw the Empire throw wave after wave at the humans, and she saw those waves crash and break. The aliens whispered to each other. They fight like they have nothing else. They fight as if every life matters. And it was true. To the humans, it did not matter that the aliens were strangers. They did not fight for reward or conquest. They fought because someone had asked for help. The Empire grew angry. Their commanders shouted across the comms, "Who are you to defy us? You are nothing. You are forgotten." The human reply was simple. We are human. And we do not abandon those who call for aid. The words echoed across the battlefield. To the Empire, they were an insult. To the survivors, they were a promise. But the cost was heavy. Human ships burned. Some were torn apart by the Empire's massive cruisers. Each loss shook the survivors. But each time a ship fell, the others roared in fury, striking back with twice the force. The humans did not retreat, did not surrender. The survivors began to see it clearly. Humanity's greatest weapon was not their technology or numbers. It was their spirit. They fought like a species that had known struggle since birth, like a people who had survived darkness before. The Empire tried to crush them with fear. But fear only made humans fight harder. For hours, the battle raged. The colony shook with every blast. The survivors gathered in the ruins, praying the humans would endure. And then, slowly, the tide began to turn. Imperial ships fell one by one. Their formations broke. Their commanders screamed for retreat. The survivors gasped. The Empire was fleeing. It was unthinkable. No one, in all the galaxy, had ever made the Empire retreat from a colony. Yet, the humans had done it. Not for riches. Not for conquest. But for strangers who had called for help. When the last Imperial ship vanished into hyperspace, silence filled the skies. The humans had held the line. Lyra looked up, her eyes full of tears. For the first time in her life, she believed her people might have a future. Humanity had given them more than survival. Humanity had given them hope. But she also felt fear, not of the humans, but of what would come next. The Empire would not forget this defeat. They would return, stronger than ever. And when they did, the war would spread beyond one colony. The galaxy would have to choose. To live under the Empire's shadow, or to stand with humanity. The survivors knew one truth that night. The humans were not saviors. They were not angels. They were warriors. And when they fought until the last breath. This was the human way of war. And the galaxy was beginning to see it. The battle was over. The skies above the colony were quiet at last. No Imperial warships circled the planet, no cruisers fired their cannons, no soldiers marched through the streets. The survivors stepped out of the ruins, their eyes lifting to the heavens where the human fleet still hovered like watchful giants. The colony had expected many things, enslavement, punishment, even abandonment, but not this. Humanity had stayed. From orbit, the human commander opened a channel. His voice carried across the broken world, calm and steady. The enemy is gone. You are safe now. We will hold our position until you can rebuild. Do not fear. The survivors listened in silence. Safe. It was a word they had not heard in so long, it felt almost unreal. Children repeated it like a prayer. The old wept. Families who had lost everything found themselves clinging to hope again. But with hope came doubt. What did the humans want? No one in the galaxy gave help freely. Protection always came with chains. Tribute, soldiers, loyalty, something was always demanded. The colony's leaders gathered what remained of their council and sent a delegation to speak with the humans. Lyra went with them, her heart pounding. She had been the one to send the signal, the one who had spoken into the dark. Now she would face those who had answered. The humans received them aboard their flagship. The ship was not beautiful, no golden walls, no delicate carvings like the Empire's halls. It was steel and fire, built for function, built for survival. The air smelled of oil and ozone, of machines that never rested. The human commander stood tall, wearing armor scarred from battle. His eyes were tired, but his voice carried strength. You called for help. We answered. That is enough. The words stunned the delegation. One of the alien leaders spoke, hesitant. You do not ask for tribute? No land, no resources, no soldiers. The commander shook his head. We fight because someone must. One day, we may call, and perhaps you will answer. That is all we ask. The survivors stared at him, unable to believe. A galaxy ruled by greed and fear had no place for such an answer. Yet the humans stood there, expecting nothing, demanding nothing. They had bled, they had lost ships, and still they asked for nothing but the simple promise of solidarity. Lyra felt her chest tighten. She realized the humans were not like the Empire, not like any power the galaxy had known. They were dangerous, yes, fierce, relentless, terrifying in war, but they were also something else. They were loyal. They fought not for conquest, but for connection. News of the battle spread quickly. Traders carried whispers from system to system. Refugees carried tales of iron ships and savage warriors who shielded strangers. In the dark corners of the galaxy, oppressed species lifted their heads and dared to hope. One plea for help had shown them something powerful. When humanity answers, everything changes. The Empire, humiliated, raged across its worlds. Commanders were punished. Fleets were rebuilt. Their leaders swore revenge. But fear had already spread among their soldiers. They had faced many enemies before, but none like the humans. The Empire's strength came from domination. Humanity's strength came from defiance. And defiance was contagious. In the months that followed, more signals lit up across the stars. Beacons long silent were reactivated. Colonies once too afraid to speak now sent messages of desperation into the void. And, one by one, the human armada answered. Every time a beacon flashed, human ships emerged from hyperspace. They fought again and again, tired, wounded, but unyielding. Wherever someone whispered, "Help," the humans arrived, bringing fire and steel against those who preyed on the weak. The galaxy could not ignore them anymore. No longer a forgotten species, humanity had stepped onto the stage with a single truth: they would not turn away. Back on the colony, Lyra stood on a hill overlooking the rebuilt city. Children played again in the streets. Families planted seeds in the soil. The Empire had been driven back, and hope had taken root. She looked to the sky, where the human fleet still patrolled like silent guardians. The words she had once spoken into the dark returned to her mind: "Please, if anyone hears this, help us." And someone had heard. Not conquerors. Not tyrants. Not angels. Humans. The galaxy would remember their answer. The Empire would fear it. And the survivors would never forget the day strangers came from the stars and changed everything. The story of humanity had only just begun.